Hey everybody, this is Merrick coming at you not live again with another sort of figure review. So today I'm taking a look at something that is sort of a blast from my past a little bit that I was surprised I even found anywhere. So, as far as my knowledge goes, back in 2023, Mattel decided to remake the old Street Sharks toy line. Now, I wasn't around when the toy line came out to be a sort of competitor to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I know the whole, the whole story how, yeah, it's basically a TMNT clone, except they don't like pizza, they like hamburgers, hot dogs, and french fries and all that shit. But I really only knew the toys from, playing with some while at a daycare once when I was, really young. And I didn't know what they were from. I just knew that they were sharks, and I liked sharks because sharks were fucking cool. And that all of a sudden, too, when I was a kid, we still had fucking VHS tapes and VCRs and crap like that. And one day my mom came home with a videotape of Street Sharks, which I watched to high heaven, because, as a shark-obsessed child who likes sharks and entertainment, that's the best we got, and that's what we got to watch, and I like that. So, Street Sharks, it was an okay show, but I never knew they really made toys. I sort of knew, but I didn't know. And all of a sudden, Mattel made these guys, and I found one for deep discount at TJ Maxx. I don't know how well these things sold. So, I've been on the fence, honestly, about getting them, because I like Street Sharks, but it wasn't one of those things that I really said, oh, I need to get, merchandise for this to show my appreciation for it. But on super deep discount, how can you say no for something that's $13 when this retailed for about, I think 20 to 30, depending on where you got it from? So, fuck it, I own a Ripster now. So, I surprisingly have a lot to say about this toy and toys like it in general, and that's why we're here today. So, this is Ripster. I assume he's the leader of the Street Sharks, because he's on the front there of the crew based on the back of the box. It's been a while since I watched the cartoon. I know it's available on Tubi. I just not really felt like going back to it and whatnot. But that theme song is still kind of stuck in my head a little bit. They are fucking jawsome, or sharksome. I forgot how they're called. Jawsome, sharksome, Street Sharks. That's how they go. But, yeah, so I kind of was keeping my eye on a toy website that I buy on to grab a Streaks, because Streaks got claws, and I think that's kind of a cool design. I'm not too crazy about Hammerhead, so I didn't want to pick up Jab, and I don't think I saw the other guy. But let's begin on what to talk about here. Well, so we're gonna do this a little bit unorthodox because this figure is a little unorthodox, and I find it interesting in that. So we'll talk about what he's able to do there. But first, let's start with the box, or boxes, I should say. So in the stores, you would see this box. Can I zoom out? No, I'm actually zoomed out as far as I can go. This is a big box, so I'll have to pull this out. To pull the camera out. Yay. So this is the box. Street Sharks, Ripster, Try Me. So very much like an old toy. It's got a Try Me section, some really nice art. I assume Streaks is a great white. Considering the blue coloration, I could think he's a blue shark, but also the pack formation that they're in, but I'm going to assume great white because that's the big shark on campus. As you can sort of see, it gives you some functions. There was a little Try Me button, and there's the villains, some little quirks and whatnot if you want to pause to read, and there were the other guys in the wave, I want to say. But I really like this box. It's got a lot of personality. I think I'm going to keep this one. I don't really keep a lot of the boxes anymore, value shit aside. Sometimes I just don't want to, but this I like. I like the look of it being sort of iron. It kind of reminds me a bit of the Resident Evil Revelations logo thing, if you remember that. Well, if anybody's ever played that game, you sort of see what I mean. It's like a little porthole with the eye. It just gives me like sort of underwater like iron box kind of feel, almost like a submarine, which makes sense. They're sharks and all that. But I know I took it off. I know I took it off the camera and whatnot, but you sort of see there's a big old hollow space. Like, oh, he fits in there, right? No, that's not the only box he came with. He also came with this. A cage. It doesn't have a bottom, which is a little weird. I would assume that if you want to get a bottom, you take the top off and put it on the bottom so that it can sort of sit in there. But it's sort of, I guess it's like a reverse shark cage. I'm not going to lie, though, this was a little bit of a pain in the ass to open. It required a lot of force, and I don't know if this thing would break. It is made of great plastic. But, again, I like the personality here that comes with this little cage box thing that the figure came in. Something really unique about it that's very Jaws-like. I like how all the bars are bent and broken, like he's been trapped in there and he wants to get out. We don't really see stuff like that with a lot of like toys and action figures nowadays. I think there was like one recent thing that I could think of that was like a children's like little plush monster toy that once you remove the chains or something like that, he becomes like wild and rabid and all that crap. But I don't keep my finger on the button on the stuff like that too much. I just kind of seen it somewhere. But now that we've sort of gotten through that, it's like I said, the cage is also kind of removable. You can hang it nicely again, which is a little weird why they didn't give you a bottom, so the little hook. But reverse Jaws, you get the idea. So I guess we're gonna move on to Ripster now. And in the spirit of summer, I'm kind of glad I wanted to talk about the shark thing before the summer goes out, because I kind of have another shark-related toy I would like to take a look at. But we'll get to that when we get to that, if I feel like it. But, so Ripster here, Great White Shark Extraordinaire, looks very cool. I honestly think he's like a nice little sculpt. I want to say that, but I can't really say that because he's not sculpted, really. He is soft material for the body. Now, I have to say this. For the longevity of this toy, I don't know how long it will last in perfect condition. And I'm saying this as a collector. I'm also kind of saying this just in case you want to get something like this for a kid, but I don't know. This is a good play feature toy for a kid too. I'll get to that in a bit. So I'm kind of glad that they sold these in the toy aisle that I've seen. I've seen the villain. Like I said, I've seen the villain's fucking like shell form. I didn't really feel like picking them up. I wanted to get the sharks. So at least Streaks and Ripster maybe, but I kind of got Ripster just because I didn't find a Streaks, but I want to get a Streaks. But Ripster here is mostly this soft material that I don't know how long would last in perfect condition. Then again, like doing the play feature, which I'll talk about a little bit, could potentially cause strain. I have a similar toy, and I'm gonna bring it out. I got a couple. I want to talk about that sort of idea, but I think it's nice though that I still think it's like nice that it feels like doesn't feel like a shark skin, but it's nice and like rubbery and whatnot. I guess you could call it a sculpt. They still have to like mold it and whatnot before they cast the plastic. I really hope that these don't I don't know. I don't want to say I really hope these don't fail as if these were just like a little nostalgia toy that Mattel made, but I hope that these kind of last even when you don't do it. But some of the nicer features of it include the fact that the teeth are harder than average of this type of rubber material or plastic. But I don't even know what this stuff is. Plasticine, whatever the frick. That should probably be toxic if it was plasticine or plastine. I don't know, but the rubber plastic material that makes up his body, this is harder than average, which is nice. It feels good to rub your fingers across it because it's shark teeth. He's also super articulated, unlike the older Street Sharks toys that I played with when I was in those little things. So he's got some really nice cowboy boot, steel-toed Sabatani shoes. like with some nicely sculpted like torn jeans on the bottom there. I don't know. There's something about like the parts that are actually sculpted in like heavy plastic, or well, regular plastic, that are nicely painted and detailed. Like this is, like I said, for $13 I got this. You can't go wrong with that. Like I don't know. Again, like as a person who is like who's like saving some money, I don't know about like full price. I'd have to check out like the other characters if that was like sort of true. But you can sort of see though, very well sculpted all around. He's got super articulation in the arms as much as he can or needs to. So something I did notice too, he's got these holes. I don't have anything that could like fit in them, and he didn't come with any accessories. And as far as I'm aware, the other sharks didn't come with any accessories neither. So that looks a little weird, frontwards facing Ripster. But none of the sharks really came with any accessories that they could hold. The closest we got was Streaks again, who I think had interchangeable hands, if you'd really want to like mess around with that. But as is the nature of these types of figures, I really wouldn't like try to do that. But also, I'm kind of glad I got him standing without his arms out like that, because that was something that I noticed. He's very top heavy, and that's because of all the mechanisms that are inside, and presumably a lot of work. So let's talk about some play features though. Outside of him being like top heavy for like display purposes, I'd say just probably like maybe prop him up against him. That's kind of how I had him on the set here. Well, you see, he looks pretty good like that. Prop him against the wall. It looks like he's standing perfectly fine. Though, you know, if you want a more dynamic angle, you could totally do that. Just gotta get it right and right corner and all that jazz. But let's talk about some play features, as I said. Okay, so first things first, I'm gonna talk about the better play feature, I guess, last, unless you also want to count the super articulation of the play feature. So he doesn't have he can't like angle his torso, his big ol' quad. He's got a 4-pack. He can't fucking twist it. He can't like permanently do his 4-pack torso because he's got a punching gimmick. Shit like this is cool. I've not seen this in like forever, and I'm glad that they kind of like returned that. Again, this is a nice collector's toy, but it's also, like I said, you could also have a kid play with this, and I think this was a feature of the old one, or at least one of the old like Street Sharks toys. I saw it on like Robot Chicken once, but like Hold on, do I have a victim? Unfortunately, Jar Jar, we do not have a villain. So let's see, how does Jar Jar fare against the Sharkman punch? Okay, Jar Jar's not gonna stand up on his own. I'm holding him, and I'm like, I wanna like whack him over. Jar Jar too likes to stand up when he's against something. There we go. Okay, Jar Jar. Let's see how well he hands against the Sharkman punch. All right, let's go. That was weak. That was weak. Ripster got caught on my hand there. I know for a fact Jar Jar's definitely not going to withstand the bite. A bite radius of a giant mutant great white shark. All right, let's go. Sharkman punch time. There we go. So it's not super strong neither. Like, it's like a little dinky punch. But he's buff. Ripster's buff, so, you know, it's kind of like, you gotta use your imagination there with how strong that is. And it's toys beating up other toys. However, the second play feature, my personal favorite one of these, and I'm so glad that this works so well, but it makes me so worried again about the longevity of this toy. We have a bite feature. Nom 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 nom. Nom 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 nom. You could recreate the ending of Jaws with your guy. Whoops. Nom 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 nom. Alright, so let's have Jar Jar be the stand-in for Quint here. Uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. Oh, damn it. It's not too deep, but he's also decently thinking there. It's not as good as an old toy. You can't really recreate the ending of Jaws with it, but it's a good, it's just a good feature. There we go. Sorry, Jar Jar. We stand Jar Jar here. I love it when toys do that, and this is not my first rodeo with this type of thing. Now, if you remember a long time ago, older viewers of the channel and older subscribers, I guess, that are still here would remember the Ivy from Resident Evil 2. So I used to think that my hands have gotten stronger, so I've been able to push it in better. But I used to think that this was like starting to like this mechanism was starting to fail on me. And he's like way more detailed inside than Ripster is. But he's got a hard body with the softness being in there for like the play feature. So I think this is gonna like last a decent amount of time. But yeah, I've had like all sorts of like play features with these like sort of things. And then I also have had this for a long time too. My OPC killer, which is hard plastic and has like the jaw function. And honestly, I think this one has like the best jaw opening function only because it's not made of a soft rubber plastic. Which makes sense for it because it's a big crab fish. But that is some nice action. That's some like pretty good reaction when you press the button. So nothing's really beaten the OPC killer in terms of that type of thing. But this type of play features like actually, you know, pretty nice. I like when toys do that because it's fun to it's fun to feed your character here something funny and have them just actually mash down on it, and it's nice with these big old chomping teeth. Like this, having it sit on my finger for a little bit, this actually does kind of hurt a little, but it's still pretty fucking cool. So yeah, outside of like some issues with standing and, you know, again, this longevity, I would like to see what the inside of this looks like, since this is all rubber, even the eyes, like this is all like blah, 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 squishy. I want to see what it looks like inside, but I'm not going to perform surgery on my Ripster here. And I don't feel like buying another one just to like take the freaking thing off. I'm not that type of like explorative scientist. Because like, look, he's squishy down here. This is all soft material. Again, I'm concerned it won't last forever, or not really last forever, but I'm concerned that it won't like survive in different, you know, techniques, which is fair. Like toys will eventually degrade over time and that type of stuff. But it's a nice mix of display and play, and that's something that kind of takes me back. Hence why I brought out the OPC killer and the Ivy. Because when I tend to buy something, I like the prospect of both display and play being taken into account there. It's why I loved Star Wars for the longest time when it came to like the toy lines, is that all the toys in that were very good for both display pieces and play pieces. I liked playing with them as a kid, I liked displaying them as an adult, and with being the fact that they're 3 1/4 inch and they have vehicles and you can pose them in the vehicle, set them up in all that type of nice big battlefield scenes and whatnot, you were kind of like solid gold there with something like that. So yeah, you got like something like the OPC killer. The Resident Evil figure, like those toys were like OG. That was like, I guess, OG collector's type of deal. But it was nice that they still gave play features for maybe like a kid or something like that. Because hell, that too right there, that William Birkin, I have one out of the box. Good display piece, good play piece. This is really nicely detailed. Not perfect, mind you, not perfect by any means, but it's still nice as both. It looks good. It feels good to mess around with. It feels good to sort of just feel the contours of all of like the little things. It's a nice display piece as well as a play piece, and we don't see that a lot anymore with toys. A lot of action figures and stuff like that nowadays really are just display pieces or crappy play pieces, and they're usually denoted by like, 5 points of articulation, very light articulation, because for some reason toy companies suddenly think that, oh, children don't like articulation in their toys. Man, I was a kid once, and I loved when my clone troopers were super articulated. I can pose them in vehicles, I can pose them with guns, I can give them all sorts of cool, like, shit. That's what I'm talking about when it comes to that type of stuff. I like that, and I miss that. And I understand there is a point to, say, a Japanese figure being only a display piece that has like very light moving. But I do miss like this type. I do miss this type of like toy, where it's nice for both because it looks nice, it feels nice, and it plays nice, as well as just like displaying nice. I don't care that he can't do dynamic poses. He's not meant to. He's meant to be like, Jawsome! Fucking like, just fucking fuck everything up and all that crap. You know what I mean? That's what the Street Sharks are. They're Jawsome. They're fucking... They're Sharksome. They're Jawsome. They're the Street Sharks. They're not the TMNT. And it's funny, too, because the TMNT got a lot more, like, display figures and all that type of shit. But I digress. This is oh god, the camera completely fucked up by messing around. Oh jeez, come on, there we go. Focus on him, baby. There we go. I like Ripster. I think that we definitely need more toys like this, and I'm glad that they're willing to do that. Heck, Transformers is kind of still doing it by the fact that, you know, you can transform them for play and put them up on a shelf for display too. So it's not entirely gone. It's rare, but it's not entirely gone. And I'm glad that, you know, maybe if these sold well, maybe these are kind of like a good sort of segue back into that mentality. Who knows? But anyway, guys, thank you guys for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed. Catch you all later. Merrick out. Peace.